Why, good morning, you beautiful souls. Welcome to another Sunday Satsang. Had a little extra love bug come up, so I had to wait for her to settle in. So I appreciate your patience. Now, healing through repentance. There is a really important note with this one, and I feel like there's a sense of urgency just kind of amongst the collective. There's a lot of shifts and things changing, and with these societal shifts, there's always kind of a karmic fallout. And when it comes to repentance, it's our opportunity that we get that karmic return on interest versus a humbling. And many of you heard me say it's that karmic fuck around and find out season. And ultimately, these things happen because we have a responsibility in this life to really transmute all of the pain that we've experienced into a power, our wounds into a wisdom, our suffering into strength. And if we don't do this, then life will naturally increase the intensity of some of these vices, of some of these blockages, ultimately, that hinder us from receiving Source's love and also giving it. Now, in the giving it, that's understood as like our pureness, our soul mission, ourselves, that in which we were created to be. But when it comes to receiving Source's love, this is that prodigal child returning home. And this is ultimately coming back to that deep understanding that everything we go through in this experience is to bring us closer to Creator. And so repentance is it's an act. It's a aspect of building intimacy with Source. It's one of the most potent and powerful ways because it's our opportunity to really drop everything, that ultimate surrender, and to receive love, to receive forgiveness, to receive strength. If there's one thing I really need to say before we start, just as much as fish will die when they're out of water, just as much as birds cannot fly when it's difficult conditions in the wind, we cannot fully thrive and live as human beings without spirit, without Source, without Creator. And it doesn't matter what you call God, divine love, Wonka Tonka, Wonka Lasha. It's our primordial parent. Consciousness, universal consciousness. It's the essence of everything. You are an aspect of Source. So when we're not dropped in and tapped in with ourselves, and we're not dropped in and aligned with Source, life's always going to be slightly off. So get a little stretch in, and we will dive into repentance and the healing modality and potential that we can each really unlock with it. Now, if you've gotten your stretches out, I'm going to grab a little sip of water. We're going to take a nice breath together just to regulate. We'll take one more deep breath in and then out through the mouth. Really open the jaw and relax. We're going to take one more breath. It's going to be in through the nose and out through the nose gently. Now, with a gentle smile on your face, we'll begin. When you hear the first 3 taps of the singing bowl, shift your attention to the bowl as it rings. And with your exhale, transmute that breath into a mighty and powerful Om. Ensure that you open the mouth and relax the jaw. That natural sigh of relief, that A note will resonate. And as you close your mouth, the U and the M will form naturally. We'll take our regulation breath together. Nice breath in. Emptying the body of breath. This is your chance to let everything go, to drop what you need to be doing today, and to simply love on yourself in this practice of rest and presence. Observe everything that arises within you at a distance, knowing that the mind, the body will be active, but pay it no attention, and its energies will drop, and you will be left with a simple knowing of witnessing, that sense of self. When you hear this final tap of the singing bowl, again, shift your attention to the sound of the bowl as it rings. And as it fades into silence, so too allow the inner happenings to drop away, observing the sensations of the flesh, the thought forms, the emotions, and the physical sensations at a distance more and more with each breath. We can say that repentance is one of those love languages of the Creator. And there's a responsibility for each of us that has had those taste, those peeks behind the veil of oneness, of love, of these truths along the path that the mind is not real, that everything is connected, and that you are life itself. And these knowings allow us to understand our position in the play of life. But what is the purpose of this game? What is the purpose of the human experience? The unique opportunity to be embodied in the human, the primal, yet also to have that beingness, that essence of spirit, eternal, separate, yet intimate, that sense of me, myself, and I, the only in which we ever know. But the first sin, the first misstep and misdirection is one of the paradoxical challenges of this life. We are forced to forget. And although some are gifted and graced with the knowings of what is beyond this playscape and what our truest eternal nature is. But that's because this playscape is one where we are challenged with the ultimate lessons. The gift it is to even be in this embodiment. It shows the evolution of your own soul. But that essence of forgetting transmutes this life into an ultimate game of hide and seek. Yet everything comes back to a choice, a willingness to remember, a yearning to know. And it's this playful curiosity that has taken you through so many experiences and moments in life. It's that willingness to discover that has brought you here today. And that is why we must use the clues we get in this lifetime to bring us closer to Source. If one could boil down these lessons, it's to remember fully who created us, what we are, and what we're here to do. Yet these answers to these eternal and primordial questions can only come through a surrender. For they lie outside the analytical, the logical, the human experience. And they dwell in the intuitional, the spiritual, the intangible. And as this path of spirit is filled with many paradoxes and many ironies, we can see one of the steps in repentance, the first and foremost, is to remember. But we cannot remember that in which we currently have no knowledge in. Not yet. For we must remember this lifetime in which we've already been gifted. When we look at each and every experience, mirroring and echoing a lesson in our ability to give and receive Creator's love, we must roll back the tapes and analyze our lives a little differently. Not looking at it from a sense of victim and predator. Because we've all played both sides of creating victims and being a victim. But it's entering into an empowered position. It's entering into one in which we know. We know why things happened. We know how we responded. And we know what we could have done in our fullest potential. Those abilities to give and receive love. And in this sense, we must look with this first step of repentance as that one of gaining understanding within ourselves. Acknowledging all of our wrongdoings and ultimately forgiving all of those who have wronged us. Because in this sense of reflection, in this sense of surrender, we let go of the pain. We let go of the shame, the fear, the doubts, judgments. Because any such things are like poisons that only harm us. And if we judge through our feelings, these experiences we have in life, ultimately we are insulting that in which created us, because everything here in this lifetime is for us. And yes, many on this path have gone through a trial of fire, but know that it is a refining flame that has brought you to a position of helping humanity, of healing others, of being an inspiration that you can do it too, for so many in whom you bless in your life. So this is the time to let go, for in this first phase of repentance, we must acknowledge, we must accept fully all that happened to us, and we must forgive all of those who were involved. If anything, we must thank them. We must pray for them, for it brought us into a deeper embodiment of what we were created to be. And when we do this life review, approach it as if you have already been passed beyond this lifetime and are waiting for your next. In this review of life, take it with such a sincerity and a seriousness to truly leave no stone unturned. And it's here we see the themes and the cycles that have played out so beautifully, so cinematically. And with that, gratitude and appreciation is born. The more that we transmute with gratitude for each experience, the deeper our understanding of it grows. And these roots will dig deep and are required for a true pathway seeking forgiveness. And that receiving of love brings us to our second step in repentance. Seeking the forgiveness from Creator. Now, this is where one can say the fear of God is born. But it is not a fear as a scare, a fear of getting scolded, but rather a love so deep, it's a fear of disappointing. These are those humble lessons in which we are confronted with that divine and eternal truth. That source is so much love. That source does not judge us. That Creator only wants the best for us and has always been waiting for us to come home and ask for forgiveness, to say we're sorry. But it's that in which we must overcome within. For when we look back at all the times in which we've turned our back on such love, from when we've ran away, from when we've scolded and reprimanded and pushed so far from Source, that no matter what you've done in this life, you are still and always worthy and deserving of forgiveness. It boggles the mind of the human and the analytical nature. But it is that infinite ocean of love and forgiveness that Source is, that brings forth our own shames and disappointments, our own unworthiness, our own wounds and lessons of where we refuse to receive. And bringing it back to that statement earlier, what is a fish outside of water? Well, what are we without receiving Spirit? They're one and the same. But there is no greater disappointment than having these tastes, these glimpses beyond the veil, these knowings of these eternal truths, and to still turn our back towards God. These are those moments in which we must come to accept. And this is where surrender takes a deeper unfoldment. Because we've looked back at our lives and we've seen through this process, looking at every experience and moment, the themes and cycles that we know fully, that we can be more. We must surrender and drop the stories. We must surrender and drop the attachments that tempt us to turn our back. And in this prodigal child returning home, this is that step of fully accepting being home. not worrying about judgments, letting go of our own mistakes, and truly living each slice of now renewed in spirit. But surrender to whom? Surrender what? One may ask. The purpose of repentance is to surrender your life to Creator. To come through these knowings that you've never done anything alone. And that you're more than assisted and loved and cared after. But your power, your gifts, your abilities, all of those good moments in life and uplifting highs, that none of those have come from you. Rather, they've come and been experienced when you drop all of this temporary world and simply witness the gift of life. And it's through that silent witnessing, flow, effortlessness, peace, joy. They're all observed in abundance, overflowing. And that gentle calm within. It's when we are co-witnessing with the witness to all of our witnessing. And so this second process of repentance is love. To receive the love that is our birthright. By letting go all the things we think we are. And putting ourselves in a position to listen. And to receive what we are created to be by the one who made us. And through this understanding, we come into this final phase of repentance. That devotional love, which is manifested and carried out as obedience and discipline. Doing what we know Creator wants for us. And leaving the space to not be led by the analytical, but to be led by the Spirit. To build and refine that channel. And just as the previous brings us to a position of surrendering, a deeper expression of unfoldment also arises within this devotional nature. It's honoring the past, but loving your future self more than the present temptations that may be around you. It's to remain fully in that knowing, to not forget. And in that essence, we must let the past self die. So what happened if everything dropped today? Where would you stand with our Creator? Again, this devotional aspect is not to judge or shame yourself, but to love so deeply that you can't resist letting go of everything that gets in the way of this pureness, the stillness, the expansiveness, and the support, all of the gifts that come with divine grace. very much so. And it's important in this knowing that this is where we challenge that innate difficulty in this human experience of forgetting with remembrance. It's bringing yourself into that state of devotional love that you always remember. That this nature of a living repentance is at the forefront of your mind, that everything you do comes with a gentleness, that it's not being led by reactivity, but rather by intuitional knowing, by breaths and gentle pauses, being led by Creator's will and not thy own. But we must bring Source into our lives. And it's through this loving process of repentance that we truly gain the healing. Because none of us are perfect. We are in this human embodiment. Naturally, we are fallible. But it's in this season of repentance that we can gain the most blessings by humbling ourselves before our Creator and leaning into what we were made to be. So allow yourself to take a nice deep breath in. And releasing the tension with a gentle exhale through the nose. And bring an invitation for you to continue breathing in such slow and gentle ways through the nose. And to know that it is your birthright. You were created to come into a full understanding of Source's love, to experience it in the waking state, to radiate it in your lifetime. And there's nothing more magical than coming home and realizing that the love there goes beyond human expression. And that is the love of Source. There is nothing to ever fear in its return. But when we do this practice with earnesty and sincerity, we realize how long and how far we've really been running away from our medicine. We are nothing without spirit. And when we humble ourselves with these truths, a deeper experience and expression will unfold naturally. And every time we renew that with remembrance, it gets easier and easier. And healing through repentance is a way of life. It is not a one and done action. It's shifting it even deeper into the cinematic gift that this life can truly be. When you hear the next tap of the singing bowl, we'll take a nice deep breath in. And again, as we begin this practice, we'll transmute that exhale into a mighty and powerful Om, with a big smile on our faces and love radiating from our hearts. We'll take a regulating breath together, in through the nose Out through the mouth. Mm. Mm. Namaste. I bow to the divine within you. And thank you so much for dropping in this morning. I appreciate it. Mm. This aspect of the kind of catch-22 about the human experience, the forgetting. That is the test of grit that this human experience provides us. It's really here to see if we're serious with our devotion, with our love, with our appreciation of Source. It's a divine game of hide and seek, ultimately. But in the season in which we're entering into, once we find Source, we're here to now be with Source in lockstep, hand in hand, like this, to be real intimate. And repentance is a practice that builds that. It is your time to really wipe the slate clean. And we must look at it like any child and parent interaction. Because ultimately, a conscious parent knows that a child is inevitably going to make mistakes. We've made more mistakes than them. We've made the same mistakes, if not worse, in this nature of creator, knowing that we are here to make mistakes, knowing that we are here to learn through these trials by fire. Don't ever think that whatever you've done, Source won't forgive you. Source will love on you if you seek it, just like any parent. And a lot of us are, from the experiences I've received these past few weeks, I've seen there's a lot of people really resisting Creator. We must recognize that if we are spiritual without Source, it's no different than being materialistic. It's a spiritual materialism. It's a spiritual narcissism. It's a self-absorption. And it's a cul-de-sac that will bring a humbling through something chaotic and negative. And it doesn't need to be like that. We can learn through love. But are we appreciative of what we've lived through thus far? Have we really learned all the lessons? Play a little scenario for yourself. With your child, how would you feel if they came up to you asking forgiveness but didn't know what they were sorry for? If they were saying, I'm sorry, but they didn't know what they did. That's the importance of the sincerity. Everyone's lesson plans are different, but when it comes down to your ability to give and receive love, you know that, and only you know that. But also Source knows that. Yeah. And there weren't any questions. I didn't post anything on IG. But this one kind of went long, and the subject itself is so much for each person to kind of dive into. Because ultimately, again, like, we're each here to reestablish that connection with Source. And if I could say that there is, a few different initiations that go down in life, many of us have already known that, when we end self-absorption, we kind of have some catalytic thing go down where it's now we're on a spiritual path. And this is one of those in the back end. Repentance. Putting Source above yourself. Putting this gift of life and all the goodness that goes into it with a playful curiosity with everyone and everything you meet. It's being open to receive the blessing and the cinema that life can truly gift you. But you have to get out of the way. So, with that, may the fruit of knowledge offer a seed, and in that seed may your love, will, and intuition give life and nourishment, for a tree shall grow. And in its shade may you find peace, and offer peace to all who ask. Namaste. I love you so much. Thank you for dropping in. This is a season of not forgetting. So, whatever you get lost in the sauce in the easiest, challenge that. What happens to your experience when you live repentance? When you choose to remember source above all else? Well, hopefully you enter into that path of wisdom. And through that, you find a love that can never be taken from you, a strength that will never leave you, and gifts beyond all measure, and a lot of blessings too. So with that, have a great Sunday. I love you so much. Take it easy. Peace. See you next week.